Yes, sir. We are here at the East Coast Black Age of Comics 2024, and we are here with one of the first gentlemen I met the very first time that I came to an East Coast Black Age of Comics event. Our very own giant man, Mr. Bill Foster. Yeah, if you know comics, we're still a little bit upset about that, but how you doing, brother?
I am doing so well, my brother. Thank you for coming by the table. Always a pleasure to see you.
Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us. Would you do me a favor? You know what? All my guests always ask them the same question, and I don't think I've ever asked you this. Where were you born and where are you from?
I was born in Philadelphia in 19 and come from a large family here. I did not leave until I was in high school. Went away to school, went away to college, and never really came back to Philadelphia except to see my family, which is the most important thing in my life. And I am a college professor, or I was, for 20 years, and a comic book historian, which I'm very proud of. And that career started here in Philadelphia. Back when I started reading comic books here in the 1960s, started collecting comic books, and started taking my comic books to various exhibits. And so it begins.
Okay. All right. So, yes, as you alluded to, I consider you to be one of the foremost scholars on comics in general, and especially comics created by people of color. Can you give our readers and listeners a little information about why the East Coast Black Age of Comics is so important and why you come back year after year?
Fair enough. We got together some years ago when we were at another large convention that didn't have a pronounced presence of people of color in it. They had, quote unquote, the Afro panel, which are people who they picked themselves selectively to represent all of us. And we are not represented by 15, 18, 20 people. We're represented by quite a few. So we were all at that particular conference, and the creator of this conference, Yumi Odom, said, listen, we can do better than this. Why don't we go? I have connections at Temple. Why don't we go there and have our own conference? And that's where it started. Now, we couldn't have been happier. You know, it was great. Nobody was giving us a place outside of who we were. We were making our own place. So every year I come here, I meet young people who are starting out, people who have long been professionals and experts, and everybody in the middle, from comic books to novels to artwork, everything to television shows that they're doing pilots of. Truly, the game has expanded over these years.
Okay, so I personally always divide Comic Cons and the comic book market into two different sides. You have people who are adults who started when they were kids and kids who are just starting out. I think only Yumi will probably be the only person better to answer this question. Why is Ekbok important to young people and families? And then what do people who are longtime comic book fans, what do they get from Ekbok?
Oh, no problem. Glad you asked that question because that gets right to the point why we're here. Where could you go if you had no idea that it existed to find comic books that represent people of color, women, left out populations in America and around the world? This would be one of the places because we have made it a home for those individuals and those groups. I could go, as I said, the comic book show we went to initially as kids, I mean, when we were all younger, the guys who are members of this, they had a select group of black people. Not all of us, and all of them apparently weren't welcome. At least that's what we felt. That's why we started our own. And that makes sense. And we've had amazing guests. We had Tony Isabella to help create Black Lightning. We had Nichelle Nichols, who was Uhura in Star Trek, come. Special day. And we've had any number of guests who've come to our exhibits and come to our presentations because that's what we're here for, to give you close touch with each other. You know, we don't leave anybody out if we can help it. And the young people, I know you've been walking around filming people who are just starting out. Tells us that there's still a need for what we do.
Okay. So, off camera, when I ran up on you, and when I see you on Facebook, I refer to you respectfully as Uncle Bill. You mentioned Tony Isabella. I'm grateful because he allows me to call him Uncle Tony. He probably hates it, but the reason why I bring that up is because East Coast Black Age of Comics is also, well, I'll ask you this. Would you consider East Coast Black Age of Comics a family reunion of sorts?
No question. It's like if we all went to the same high school and we all had reputations and we all would be bust on each other. Same thing happens here, but at the same token, we are supporting each other. So you have to love that. The idea is that you never know where we're going to see each other along the trail, and no matter where we are, we get a hand out to lift every people up. And that's fun, and it's important. It's essential. Some folks will never get it because they've never been left out. But because you haven't been left out doesn't mean a lot of other people haven't been. And so we want to make sure our table is big enough for everybody. You could be in an inner city, you could be in a suburb, you could be in the country. Come find us or come find a place like us. I'm thrilled by this. The number of young people I see are immensely talented, artistically, or as writers. It never ends, and I think that's very important. Because when I was a kid, I would have lived for that. But I'm fortunate enough that I had parents that didn't dissuade me. My mother and father did. My mother didn't particularly have me reading comic books, but then at the same token, I was a major reading of the Bible. So I did a lot of reading. It wasn't just comics and novels and stories for young people and stories not for young people. I was very hungry to find out about knowledge of the world I live in. And this is another place where that takes place.